Hello, I'm Richard Miller and the guy from Never Not Here. And a little while ago I had put on the website something that I showed what I called a water mixer, and I said maybe someday I'll tell you about it. So I was thinking, well, maybe I should tell you a little bit about it. And trying to figure out, I'm not too theoretical about it, or I don't really understand it totally, so I'll just tell you my process. And my process started in April, actually, and somebody sent me something they called structured water. And it came in a little bottle like this. So it's kind of like homeopathic remedies. And so then the idea was you would take this bottle and you would put a couple of drops into a bigger container. So I've been lately, well, there goes 3, boom. I've been usually using like 2 drops in a liter. And they don't even say we'll really mix it up or wait 5 minutes or who knows what you have to do, but for some reason that's always been a puzzle with me, like homeopathic remedies. Why can this change that, which is a bigger volume, but the bigger volume doesn't change the 2 drops? There must be some kind of a preference in there, something about water is at a basic, is a more base state. And so then it seems to work. And it's actually, you can feel it. You don't have to just believe it. And so then I went in through several weeks or even months of experiments just drinking this water. And I was taking it more at a more of a concentration because they had 2 kinds of bottles. One was normal and one was super concentrate. And the concentrate you take at night because, well, it does kind of make you sleepy or slower. Or they ascribe some spiritual properties to water where they say it does kind of slow your mind down and so on. But the way I'm taking it nowadays is usually 2 drops in a liter or 3 drops in a liter and a half. But to get back to my original experiment, at the time I was really working. I had some physical work that I had to do that I'm not used to that much physical activity. And I had all kinds of soreness in my arms and my shoulders especially. And so when I first started taking it, this soreness just started to come out. And you know, the idea is structured water penetrates or somehow hydrates better. And this would work on animal tissue and also plant tissue. And I have to say that it made a huge difference. All this tiredness or this lactic acid from this excess muscle activity came out within a couple of days, and then I was feeling pretty resilient. And other people that I gave it to, they said, oh, at first it gives me a headache. So then there seems to be some kind of a detox reaction with it, which would be logical if it was hydrating your cells better and penetrating the cells. And so the idea is that, well, I didn't know what the idea was. I was just, I went onto the website and I tried to find out some information, exactly what it is, how they make it. I don't even know if I have to know those things, but I'm the kind of a curious guy that wants to know, well, is this for real or what? Or do other people agree with it? And so then I started searching all kinds of things. And some of the first things that I saw were actually relating to plants. And I'll just show you this a little clip off of a piece of a Chinese movie. And there's some kind of a unit that looks like a stainless steel unit.
Structurized water makes vegetables ripen faster and increases the amount of useful microelements and vegetable proteins several-fold.
If we look at the shoots, the treated ones were long, even, and strong, while the untreated ones were short, thin, and weak. If we look at the plants today, those from the selected seeds have all ripened, but the ones from non-selected seeds have not. We have to say that using structurized water really does affect the growth of vegetables and fruits.
For the purposes of irrigation, 20% less of this type of water is needed than when using ordinary water. No fertilizer was added to the soil or the water. The chemical composition remained the same, H2O. The only thing that had changed was its structure. At the present time, scientists can answer the question of how this happens, but science does not yet have an answer to the question of why.
Next, I found these videos relating to structured water being used in strawberry fields.
Conscientious growers measure the effectiveness of their methods by the actual nutrient content that gets into their foods, as indicated by a Brix reading obtained with a refractometer. Before installing the photonic water device, this section of the field was considered the poorest, but in 6 short weeks' time, it's by far the best.
They can only afford to produce the berries here as long as it's cost effective, and during different times of the season the berries will be pulled from different part of the world, so the price in strawberries, like any commodity, will go up and down. So during the time when they need to produce, they'll push production and they'll add in fertilizer and they'll get a lot of berries back. Now they've gone past the fresh market and past the cannery market, and they aren't fertilizing these fields anymore.
I see. So this is your Welch's jam and stuff like that season, that time now.
Yeah,
they can throw some sugar on it and mask anything, right?
Yeah, it's past that time. Well, yeah. Yes, and definitely the amount of sugar in the plant determines what the canneries will pay, or if they will even accept, depending on the cannery.
Okay, and yet this field here didn't get the memo that the season was over, so something's happening here.
They stopped fertilizing this field about 3 weeks ago, which normally would mean it would stop producing berries. They did their last feed and their last pick, and all across the rest of the field there's a few berries, but here it's like they're still in full production.
When water is allowed to reset itself to its natural, balanced, and energetic state.
From these videos, I got the idea that plants do better with a structured water source. And so to follow up on that, I was just planting a garden myself, so I came up with a unit to water my garden with. And if you look at my garden, well, it looks like it's going really good. And I did use some compost, and I put a few things in the soil, all organic. But you can see that at least the green part of the tomatoes are going up and away. And if you go to my neighbor on the north, he's got these tomatoes that did pretty well there last year, but they're only at about 4 feet this year. And when you look at my neighbor to the south, they're only about 2 feet tall, and both of those guys have way more sun than I do. So what's the difference? I've been using the structured water, and they haven't. So then I started looking in more and more into how to create this structured water, and I understood. I built a couple of units, actually. That's the one I showed you before, and I put some spheres in a piece of PVC, and I installed these both under my sink in the kitchen so that I would be eating and drinking and washing my vegetables and making my tea with structured water. And I put another unit in my shower so I would be bathing with the structured water. Perhaps it's too early to give a report and say that this structured water is the same as this structured water, but something about it is claimed to be similar. And I just went straight ahead and actually built some larger units, like the inline unit, and I put that unit right in line so that my whole house and all my irrigation is using this water through these tuned chambers, is what they call it. All the while I was experimenting in the garden, and also with my under-sink unit and my shower unit, I was also reading and trying to understand exactly what the heck is structured water. And one pretty good book is called The Water Puzzle and the Hexagonal Key. And this is by Mu Shik Jean, a Korean guy. He actually spent a lot of time at the University of Utah. And he started to talk about that water forms clusters. Just remember back in high school chemistry that we all learned that ice is a crystal and that vapor is a gas of free molecules. But we really didn't know what liquid water is. And what people like this book is talking about is that liquid water is actually formed in clusters. Now clusters, it's not like little ice cubes floating around in your water. In other words, they're not crystalline structures, but they're tendencies. And so the tendency is for molecules to agglomerate. And that's because a water molecule, and here's a representation of one, is polar, because the oxygen side has a slight charge and the hydrogen side has the other opposite charge, and these charges tend to attract each other and group together. And so there's some dramatizations of a hexagon, or we can find pictures of water in a pentagon. But these are what the theory is, that a hexagon is a more complete structure and it stays in a smaller cluster. And that a pentagon, 5 water molecules, tend to attract another unit of 5 molecules and another one, and they could be huge clusters, even a couple hundred molecules, whereas the hexagonal water supposedly is 6, 12, 18, or some smaller cluster. And you can see how that's going to work better in plant or animal tissue, because especially with animals, we know that we depend on osmosis, that water has to go through our capillaries and actually penetrate the cell wall in order to do its job. And with this water, definitely I can feel that. With this water, with the other water from the water machine, the mixing machines, it's an experiment. Even my sycamore tree out front has done way better with this water, because it's got a fungus and some kind of a disease that causes leaf dieback and branch dieback. And for years, it's only had a few leaves on it. And this year, it's fuller than ever. And here's another clip of somebody in Fort Wayne. You can see they have a whole basement full of water purification equipment. And until they put the very small water mixers in there, they weren't getting the right results. And that's something they call entrainment. Entrainment is that the water molecule, when it's in a more complete state, whatever that means, I'll just say it, somehow what's in there, in her case it's a fungus, it's not being filtered out, it's just somehow held in that more complete cluster and doesn't make the same side effects as it used to.
This was a reverse osmosis system, or?
We had the reverse osmosis back here. We still have it in the corner. And these are like a storage for the water, and this is our hot water heater. This is a charcoal filter. We have a ceramic filter around the corner here that's a 1/2 micron. And these are all the bypasses. We have an ultraviolet light trying to kill the mold and bacteria in the water too. And there's pre and post filters. And the guy did a great job, and he's better than any water guy we've had in Fort Wayne even. And he's done a tremendous job. It's pure, but it's still not healthy water. So here's our structured water unit here, and we have one here. We actually put one in for our yard. We have an underground sprinkler system, and as I was telling you earlier, we had funguses growing on all my hanging baskets and my plants. Nothing grows at this house, and I think it's all due to the water. It'd be good till about July, and they'd pick up this black mold, and so we cut back some of the perennials, and since we put in the structured water unit, and the new growth coming up is green and healthy. So I noticed the weeds are more under control. So it's doing something to the yard too. And usually we get a fungus right around this time of the year. We didn't have to put the fungicide down.
Yeah, well, the presence of weeds tend to indicate a lack of balance within the soil.
Yeah, we had a garden at one time we first moved in, nothing would grow. All we get was crabgrass and mice. Crabgrass. So, this simple unit here and that one up there, solved our problem. We even had a micron screen backwashing thing to screen the sediment, the turbidity in the water. Because the only thing we've ever had wrong that the city could find is we have a very high turbidity, which is dissolved organics or whatever it might be. And this thing, when it backwashes, you'll see a cloud of dust. There's so much. So the water coming in is not good. Definitely.
So you're saying the city, that was the only thing that they would acknowledge would made it was wrong.
There was no E. coli, but it's still making us sick. And, our softeners over here, and now we didn't even put salt in it, and the water still feels softened without the salt. So.
I told you about detox, and I also told you about mussels and somehow releasing toxins, but there's more to it than that, because there's other things that I noticed just in these months that are different in my body. For instance, some of my joints, I had something in my shoulder joint where I couldn't really touch myself. I couldn't really move this arm as much as I could move this arm, and it's still not the same, but I mean, it's much improved in just these few months. Maybe when I wake up in the morning, I kind of do what a yoga position called a half frog, as I just kind of put one leg out and then put the other leg out. Well, one leg went out way farther than the other one. And there's some kind of block in my joint, in my hip joint, and now that thing is releasing. Sleep, I sleep way better. It's unbelievable that for years and years and years I'd sleep 6-7 hours a night, and then I would feel like it's too uncomfortable lying here. I was just uncomfortable in my own skin. And sure, I made up a lot of stories about how I'm not lazy, or, you know, I've got so many good things to do, I want to get up and get at it, and all these kind of things. It's all excuses. I just didn't feel well. And when I lay in bed, I didn't feel well. I'm sleeping much better. I can sleep even a couple hours longer if I want to. And I could just feel that resting and that renewing and what's going on in my body as a healing. I was doing some heavy lifting on transplanting a huge pot, and I strained my back the other day. Unbelievable, this one. For 20 years I had this seed of a cramp in one part of my back down by my kidney, and it's released enough so that that actual strain didn't reoccur in that same spot, which is always my tender spot. So it's unbelievable that what I took for granted for years and years, for decades, for 20 years about my health is actually undoing now, and somehow I'm feeling rejuvenated. And so then this is the grand experiment. So if water can be somehow more useful to your bodies, somehow more useful to your plants and your garden, somehow more useful even to your plumbing fixtures, and you know, your dishwasher lasts longer because if it's not calcifying. Let's do this experiment. And how should we do it? I don't know. I mean, I'll make you one of these units, and what I'd like to do is get more and more people experimenting and giving their feedback and saying, well, what did this do for me, or what is this really doing? Let's help each other to understand it. I can make this unit with a 1-inch feed, and this is the one I put in my main feed. And let's talk about it. So give me a ring, give me an email, and let's say how to continue this experiment. So for now, thank you very much.